Hey everyone, before we get into this next episode, I want to give a quick shout out to one of the sponsors of the podcast, being the Archives of Falconry. And if you've ever wanted to see the Archives collection but haven't ever been able to swing the trip to Boise to do so, you can go to the Archives website at falconry.org, and from there you can click on the collection tab and explore thousands of collection items using keywords or advanced searches. And also, if you have an item that you'd be interested in donating to the Archives, you can contact them at info@falconry.org and start that process. And that way, if there's a particular item that you want preserved for future generations of falconers to be able to check out, you can do so. So once again, if you want to check out the collection or become a member, just head to falconry.org. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to Onyx, and for those of you that haven't become a Onyx subscriber yet, well, you're missing out on a lot of really cool things that can help enhance your hunting experience. I know for me it's really important to be able to track where all my favorite hunting spots are, and also have another resource to be able to get a hold of landowners, to be able to get land access and scout for other potential hunting spots as well. There's all kinds of really cool features, and if you haven't been a subscriber and would like to, just head to onxmaps.com and you can use the promo code HXP20, sign up, get a discount, and start knowing where you stand with Onyx. And now, on to this next episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast.
She did things that I didn't know one could do. And I'd been around, I've seen a lot of red tails fly, but I never saw a bird do what she did and the way she did it. And so I'm convinced that they can do more than we think they can. And it's about how can you get them in top flight condition so that they can really perform. And, you know, for us guys to have a bird in top condition is hard to do.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast, and this episode is going to take us back more towards the eastern side of Texas again, and I have to make sure to give another big thank you to Randy Watson for helping to make these recordings happen that took place in that part of the state. The guest for this episode, Robert Carter, has a pretty diverse falconry experience and discusses some of that in this episode, along with some of the different breeds of dogs that he's used in falconry and some other things. So we'll just go ahead and jump into this episode with Robert Carter coming at you from Eastern Texas. Here we go. Nice to meet you, Robert. Thanks for doing this morning. And, I'm really appreciative to y'all having me down here. I've not ever been down to this part of Texas before, so this is a completely new experience.
Welcome, beautiful part of Texas. I that's my perspective anyway. East Texas, pine trees. Now August, September can get awfully hot, and the deal is it's not only hot but humid and not a breath of air. I mean, no breeze at all with all the trees. It gets so still. And trying to train maybe a longwing with a kite, you can't catch any. It's, difficult weather in August and September. But other than that, pretty nice weather, just year round, never gets too cold, not too hot. It's just really nice. So welcome to East Texas. We're glad to have you.
Well, thank you. Is it, so in the summer when it gets hot like that, is it more of an arid or a humid type?
Yeah, it's a humid kind of hot, but not as bad as the Gulf Coast of Texas. Now that's humid. Yeah.
Well, as I just got done telling you, I'm from southern Indiana. I'm at Evansville, like where I'm at. It gets pretty hot and pretty humid during the summer. It's miserable.
Yeah.
Like the sweat is not your own type of deal. I mean, it gets almost, 100% humidity sometimes,
right.
And it's disgusting. So I didn't know if it was kind of similar to that or not.
Yeah, from here, this is November, so from here to May, even beginning with June, you're in good shape. June starts getting pretty warm, and then in August and September, it can get hot.
Yeah, so is this kind of... Is this area pretty much where you've mostly lived throughout your life then?
Well, I grew up on the Gulf Coast. I've been here about 30 years, and it's where my falconry started, was here in East Texas. And so my falconry has been, as everyone is taught, I guess, hunt what you got. And we've got squirrels. And at one time we had ducks, not so many now. And that's why I'm not flying ducks now with a longwing. I've kind of given that up for now, unless something happens and that duck population changes, which I guess is possible. It went south and now maybe it'll come back. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the flight path has changed so much or habitat has changed. We've got so many now that are building habitat, not only like Ducks Unlimited and then government that puts together habitat. That's, well, we're glad to have that, but then they don't come to my little ponds anymore. Those ducks say, well, you know, I'm going to go where the smorgasbord is. I'm going to go where the feast is. So I don't know what it is, but we don't have very many ducks to fly here in East Texas. Yeah.
Well, in those areas that those habitats and stuff, then I'm assuming they're not huntable at all.
Well, mostly it's because, well, I say this, some of them are not huntable, but there are those areas that are open to hunting, but the way it's set up and the gun hunters and that kind of thing, but also it's the big water. It's almost impossible to get ducks up in a flushable kind of scenario where you can catch one. It's just huge water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever you were doing that with the long wings, then you weren't doing much in the ways of like ditch hunting or anything like that. It was just small pond flushing, like you were saying then. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm not really super familiar. We don't really have a lot of the, I don't know, like the Ducks Unlimited and these other type of people coming into like areas around where I live, at least not to my knowledge, that are doing a bunch of that. I mean, a lot of the duck hunting that we have where I'm at is mainly kind of semi-urbanish, like ditch lines and things like that, you know, flushing with things like, you know, Harris's Gosses and things like that, you know. I wish that in my area we had more of the agricultural small pond type setups and things like that. But that's what makes flying a long wing. You would really have to adapt and fly a long wing, probably in what a lot of the traditional long wingers' eyes would be kind of more of a taboo type setup with low pitches and things like that or whatever to kind of make it happen in my area. But I mean, so, I mean, how long ago then was it that you started noticing, you know, a lot of those changes?
Well, I first started flying a long wing in about 2004, 5, I guess 2005, I think. And I'll just tell you the first year, my first bird, I got lucky, good bird, captive bred, but he trained well. But think about his first season. And a lot of that's training, getting him started so he understands what's going on. His first season, he caught 39 ducks and would have caught 50, but he killed himself on the 39th duck, killed the duck and killed himself, just hit too hard. I didn't know I couldn't tell he was hitting too hard. I thought it was great. Mm-hmm. But I've told you that because my bird caught 39 ducks that year and my sponsor, his bird caught 81. That's a pretty good season. We're flying 5 days a week. So we had a setup. Well, the next year, not as many ducks. I had a better bird and his bird was getting better, but fewer ducks. And then the next year, well, so 4 years ago, 3 seasons ago, I just gave it up trying to find long wings because my sponsor, of course, you know, it's been years ago when I was the apprentice, but long story short, he was here ahead of me. Those were his ponds, so to speak, and we developed some of them together. But he was flying that long wing, and we couldn't find enough ducks for the two of us. And my job changed, and so anyway, the last year he flew, I think he didn't catch but 2 or 3 ducks. And we're talking about a guy catching 80 something in a season, and now, so over a span of about 20 years. 15 years at least, it's pretty noticeable. You call it in 15 years, just from a lot of ducks to very few.
So you think it's still more of the habitat issue though than say like your like avian influenza type stuff?
Yeah,
and
well,
things like
you know, we've had some good hatches from what we're told.
Yeah,
ducks up north where they're producing those babies, we'll read about great hatches and you're going to have lots of ducks, but they don't come down here. And again, I think they hang up north of us in places like Oklahoma where they've got habitat that's been established that wasn't there before, and now it is. Mm-hmm. And then around us, again, the way the bird flies not 20 miles from us is huge habitat, huge, with ducks coming in. And you go over there and there's thousands of ducks where they're not in our ponds, though. So that tells me it's not that it's just fewer ducks. They're just not coming to us. Flyable, flushable ponds. I don't see them.
So the long wing type of deal, though, it wasn't enough of a love for you to make you want to relocate to where all the ducks were going then?
Well, if money were no object, I probably would have moved a long time ago to find better habitat for all of it, honestly. But, there's no way. I was thankful to be able to do what I did. In fact, when I first got started, I was told, well, you can't fly a long wing in East Texas, too many trees and too many high wires and
that's all I hear too. Yeah.
Barbed wire fences and just not enough ducks. Even then they were saying not enough and in hawkable situations. But anyway, we were fortunate. We had a great setup for a little while and now they're gone and I don't know what we're going to do about it. Nothing you can do, I don't guess.
Yeah.
Fly red tails.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Unless you're willing to move and unless you're willing to go wherever the prey base is, then you're restricted to whatever you got, where you live. And I mean, you can try and fly other birds and other species, but you're just going to end up spinning your wheels and it's going to end up being probably more hassle than what it's worth.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's pretty good numbers though. I mean, especially for long winging and I mean, that's pretty substantial. Those are some good seasons now.
Yeah, we had some good seasons, yeah. For me, with my long wing, I would be disappointed if I caught less than 40. And anywhere from 30 to 40, I was okay with that. But then when it got down to 15 and then 10, and we just can't find a flight. It's that kind of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's disappointing though, especially when you get used to something and then you just kind of have it seen kind of naturally taken away, by default. I can see where that would be disheartening.
Yeah. But again, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So you adjust.
Yeah. Well, and as far as, just how you've kind of adapted over the years, then what have you kind of transitioned to? I mean, you mentioned red tails and you mentioned that you've flown, before we kind of got started a little bit here, you mentioned that you have kind of transitioned to multiple different, species throughout your time in falconry and everything though. But what have you ended up kind of settling on, the most throughout, I don't know, say the last handful of years or so?
Well, at this moment, red-tailed hawk. And honestly, I never did really get enough of the red tail from my years as an apprentice. I had good experience with a red tail, and then ultimately got to fly a bird that I think, in fact, my sponsor said the other day, she's going to go down as one of the greats. Her name is Rodeo. You might see her name published here and there, but not with me handling her. I flew her for 3 seasons. And then I gave her to my apprentice, and he flew her for 9 seasons, I think it was. But hundreds of squirrels that she's caught. She caught 50 her first season, 50 her second season, 50 her third season. And with that number, you realize I said that's enough. Because how many could she have caught? I don't know. Because I'd say I'm done and she's done. I mean, in terms of, I know she's had good experience. But anyway, just a great bird. And I never did get that out of my system. So for me, to fly a red tail is not backing up or slowing down or having to settle. I love flying a red tail. Now, if I was flying rabbits, I don't know. I've done some of that. But it's that squirrel hawking that I love squirrel hawking. Gary Brewer, everybody knows Gary Brewer if you're into red tails. He lives right here close. And he's been very influential along with my sponsor, Danny Pickens. Both of those guys know squirrel hawking. And anyway, they've been very influential. And Gary Brewer, Well, we can talk about him later, I guess. And if you got any questions, a little bit that I know of him, but I really do appreciate him. But he has helped me a whole lot in understanding what the red tail is about, and he talks about the 3-dimensional kind of world that they live in, and the way that hawk has to work to catch a squirrel. It's a deal. It's not. Yeah, it's when you catch a squirrel with a red tail, you've done something, and they're incredible birds, and I love the way they look. I love the way they act. I love what they can do. And here I've got lots of squirrels. East Texas is loaded.
I mean, that's great. I've come over the last couple seasons to really enjoy squirrel hawking myself. I wish it was one of those things that, I've talked about it before with some other guys, and I wish that it was something that I would have gotten into sooner. I didn't know I would have as much fun with it. And then I started getting a chance to get out with some other guys that are fairly known for it, in the Midwest. And what I really found was I was surprised at how much more engaging it is. One of the big reasons why I kind of wasn't very big into flying red tails for a while is because, we mainly fly them on bunnies where I'm at. And to me, it just kind of got boring, a little bit. I mean, it's changed a little bit for me since I started incorporating dachshunds into the mix, and it becomes more fun again, but for me and squirrels, I just like how everything happens right in front of you. You get to see it all. And it, like you were saying, that bird has to work so much harder, and it becomes this ultimate chess match, between the squirrel trying to get to that hole that that it's trying to get to. And then the bird's trying to outmaneuver it, trying to make it nervous, trying to make a mistake, and trying to get it to make a mistake and all this. It's just so much fun to watch.
Right. And birds, the different birds, where they are in terms of their own expertise, their ability, and they're different birds. I mean, just like humans, there are some that are more athletic, some that are more aggressive. It's just the way it is. And with a red tail, they're very forgiving. Trap one, you don't handle it very well. It doesn't work out very well. Well, you can turn it loose, and she goes right back to where she was before you picked her up. No harm, no foul. They're plentiful in terms of being able to trap one. So that plays well. And then watching those birds develop and enjoying the different aspects of squirrel hawking, from the bird that chases, and then catches one, and chases it. Chase 9 or 10 squirrels before they catch one. You get to one like I mentioned, rodeo. I've told people that they want to go watch a squirrel hawk fly, and I said, well, if you want to go see one catch a squirrel, go with rodeo. If you want to see one chase a squirrel, probably don't go with rodeo, because she doesn't chase much anymore. She just catches. And I'm serious about that. I thought about it when I heard you saying how, the chess match and how they have to maneuver, and rodeo's gotten so good that it's like she can read their mind. She knows what they're going to do. And so she sets up and waits for them to make that fatal move, and then she's got them. Mm-hmm. And so it's not much of a chase anymore. It's just she pressures them, and then bam. And my first bird was a great chaser, not a very good catcher, but I figure about 10 squirrels before I'd catch one. She'd chase hard, 9, 10 squirrels, and then catch one. Rodeo doesn't do that. She won't chase them if she can't catch them. She knows I'm not going to waste my time. She'll go over and pin one down, and when he moves wrong, she's got him. It's just incredible. So there you go. Different birds and different experiences. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. Every so often, you'll get a chance to see a really young bird pick up the game pretty quick. But generally, like you were describing, it's not until they hit their first or even second mature, adult season where, then it's just like you're walking around, you're hitting trees and stuff. And then all of a sudden you notice the bird stops following. And then you look up at the bird and it's locked on to, that pinpoint in an adjacent tree or something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you hear the bells move, and all of a sudden you see her floating down with a squirrel, and it is funny because there is such a stark difference between the amount of movement and just the overall amount of chasing, kind of like you were saying, between an immature bird and an experienced bird that knows the game, especially with squirrels. And yeah, you're right. I mean, you're not going to see near as much flying typically with a mature red tail that kind of knows the game, because they can already anticipate what's going to happen. And yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, so have you really tried doing much in the ways of squirrel hawking with, say, like, passage Harrises or anything? Or
well, captive bred Harris, I've only flown one, and he's still kind of in my circle of friends. The guy that was my apprentice is flying him now, and good experience with that Tiercel, male Harris hawk, I should say. Captive bred, came out of California. Got him when two of my buddies also were getting Harris hawks so we could fly in a cast. Didn't work so well for us because we could never get together. We flew together about 5 times, and it's just because of work, that sort of thing. But anyway, long story short, with that bird, learning the difference between one that is flying, how do I describe it, in not too fit as compared to flying fit. I learned more from that bird about a fit hawk than any of the other birds. He was kind of a real, I don't know, an eye opener. And the reason why is because I was flying him at a weight where he first caught his first squirrel and kind of eased him up. He's a first year bird. And along the way, he got hurt, and it put him down for a month that he couldn't hunt, but he could fly. And I doing operant conditioning, I had him doing jump ups, which meant leaving my fist and go to the top of the canopy in the trees. There's some tall trees in East Texas. He'd get to the top of the canopy, I'd call him down, and he'd go right back up. Well, when the first day I turned him loose to go hawking, to go fly, the very first day, within 5 or 10 minutes, he caught his first squirrel. And he was flying about, at least 70 grams heavier than he had been flying before. Heavier. And he was a machine. To watch him fly those squirrels, it was incredible. But that little bird, I used him. I did what the books told me. I didn't marry him, wed him to squirrels. He caught squirrels, but he caught 9 species his first year, including a wild turkey, little Tiercel Harris hawk. So 9 different kinds of animals that little Tiercel did. So I love them too. And I still got, he's not mine, but anyway, he's in the family of friends. I'm going to get to watch him fly again this year. Hadn't started with him yet, but anyway. Yeah.
Cool.
I love Harrises.
Yeah. No, I kind of have, I don't know, a little bit of I wouldn't say love-hate. I mean, I have an interesting history with Harrises too, but, there's a lot of things I love about them, and then there's some things that frustrate me about them too, to some degree, but it is what it is. Everybody seems to have a semi-interesting, at least one, like Harris Hawk story, I like them too a lot. They really are really smart and really just versatile in what you can do with them, for sure, especially the males. But I still haven't had a chance to fly a passage yet. That's the one, I've flown a imprint, I've flown, some chamber rays, I've flown some second hands. I've still not had a chance to fly a passage though yet. And that's still on the list, but I don't know, maybe I'll have to come down and try and trap one here in Texas sometime.
Yes, sir. We got them right here in Texas.
Yeah. So, yeah, so many things, man. So many things on the list, and just not enough time, it seems like.
Right now, red tails, and that's where I'm going to be for a while, I expect. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good, like you were saying, there's nothing wrong at all with what you were saying. It's absolutely true. They're a great, versatile bird as well, very hardy, very forgiving of mistakes. Everything you said, I completely agree with, and they're readily available.
That's right.
And a friend of mine, told me once that, the only reason why people get kind of lax somewhat about their attitudes with red tails, I think, is just because they're so easy to get. if they were harder to get, like everybody would want one. It's
Right, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah.
But, well, I think we should loop back around then and talk some about, how you discovered falconry and how you kind of got into it then, and kind of what made you decide to make the final decision to kind of pursue it once you ended up in this area then.
Well, it goes back to when I was a kid watching television. I loved the idea of being able to work with a wild bird. I just loved it, fascinated. Had pigeons, had hook bills of several different ones. Loved the idea of flight. But all I knew about falconry was it was for somebody else. I mean, bottom line, how could I ever do that? Where would that ever be a possibility? And honestly, when I first read regulations about having to be trained by somebody, I said, first of all, who's ever seen a falconer? And if I found one, why would he train me? And if he trained me, how much would it cost? There's no telling what it would cost me. I can't do this. So I just kind of put it on the back burner, didn't think about it. And one day, a mutual friend of my sponsor, we were talking about my sponsor. I didn't know he was a falconer. I just knew of him. I'd met him. I didn't know him so well. But anyway, this other guy was talking about him, said, yeah, he flies birds, buzzards or something. I said, he does what? And he said, yeah, I think he flies hawks or something. I don't know. I said, oh, you got to be kidding. Well, I went right then and called him right then and asked him, could I go with you? He said, you can go in the morning. And when you talk to him, he'll tell you he knew that day that I was one of those guys. I mean, it was like a spiritual experience when I saw he was training a deer peregrine, and he had a baggie with him, and he threw that baggie in there, and that deer peregrine came in. Even today when I think about it, it just made me weak in the knees. I couldn't bear not to follow through with that. And so, ask him if he could train me, would he? And he was a great guy, and now a lifelong friend. We've really enjoyed a lot of times together. We've had a great time. But, just meeting that at that time. And I've been flying now for 20 years, and he's been flying at least 40. I don't know, but I'm sure at least 40 years. And to have him right here and to do what we did, I always wanted to, but never thought it's possible till I met him. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's really a really nice common denominator. Like, no matter who I talk to, everybody always has that one, and it's never hard for people to recollect, that particular moment, so to speak, that really got them, interested, kind of lit the spark or spark the, however you want to, put it, spark the passion for it. And, the other thing too, that for the most part, the vast majority of people usually end up being lifelong friends with, whoever agrees to, sponsor them. And, I know for me, the friendships and that aspect of things has really played a huge part in the motivation to start doing, these podcasts and start, just continuing to be involved and maintaining, all these different friendships and stuff. For me has just been like a big reason why I continue to do it. Yeah. I mean, has it been pretty much the same for you in that regard? Yeah.
I've met people that I would have never met. Mm-hmm. And if met, would not have gotten to know them except through falconry. Yeah. Just talking birds. You begin to realize that, there's a lot of neat people out there that you never even guessed you might have a relationship with, So I'm talking to apprentices now. I got two, husband, wife. They live about, 30 miles from me. I would have never met them had it not been for falconry. And they connected through some others that knew me, and here we are. I called him just the other day. Both of them have a fresh trap bird, husband and wife team, and they got kids that are excited about it. So here we go. Who knows what that's going to mean in the years ahead? Don't know.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
For me, it's always neat to hear about these multiple generations of people like getting interested and then maintaining their interest. And because I married into a situation like my wife doesn't really like birds. She could care less about any of it. And then of course we have a son who also doesn't really care about any of it. He shows an occasional spark of interest, just enough to get my hopes up enough to then in turn crush him. Just take it right in his fist and just crush it right in front of me, when he stops acting like he cares, again. But I found, this is just one of those things too, where you have to, you have to care about it. Like you can't really force this on somebody. Someone really has to want to love it on their own and really have that interest. Otherwise, you're just kind of wasting your time.
Yeah, and it's hard for me to understand, and I certainly can't communicate it because I don't understand it myself. Why it is that I am the way I am. I've always been this way. Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, I love the idea of flight and to be able to have a bird come to me. In fact, I trained a pigeon here not too long ago. Flying machine. I could call him from anywhere. If he could hear my whistle, he'd come to me and land him. I thought this is a good way to encourage people into falconry with a pigeon. It's unbelievable. And I'm going to do that again, by the way. It was so much fun. But I've got a granddaughter that might be interested. She loves animals, but I don't know that she'll be into that kind of, with the falconry and all that's involved with, they're hunting and they're killing, and I don't know that she'll like any of that. But she loves animals. She likes to look at them. But I hear exactly what you're saying, and we just made point of it just earlier. We had a policeman drive by, had my bird out, and the policeman made a U-turn and came back. And as I expected, it wasn't because he thought we might be up to something no good. He wanted to know, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's interested.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And so he asked all kinds of, he said, I got a million questions. This is a policeman, okay? Mm-hmm. And now, when at the end, he kind of apologized. He said, sorry for cutting in. And I said, man, listen, I appreciate guys like you. And I don't understand why everybody's not like you. But I've had people I remember one time we're in Colorado on our way to Wyoming to fly sage grouse with our falcons. And it's early morning, little, I think it was Starbucks coffee. And we're in the parking lot. We decided we're going to weigh our birds. We've been driving for like 20 hours, weigh the birds, get them out, see what they look like. And we had a guy, we had to move out of his way because he was parked in the next spot. And we were standing right in the way of his, so we had to move out of the way. We're both holding falcons. He acted like, it's like every day. And when he got in his car and left, I asked Dennis, and how did he do that? How did he walk past two falcons and not even like he didn't even see them? I don't know. I don't understand that. And I've told people when I was a kid, there was a falconer and I found out in my neighborhood, I would camp on his doorstep until he talked to me about it. I'm fascinated with them. But, you can't force it on somebody they don't understand at all. And I don't understand them.
Well, and I think some degree of that too probably was he might have just been one of those people that is also good at minding his own business too. Right. There's a lot of people in the world, and I'm sure the guy probably there's no person that I know of that could at least not walk by that and be like, what is going on there?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it takes certain types of personalities to then have the the guts or just the courage, so to speak, to walk up to somebody and be like, I'm sorry, I have to ask what you're doing.
And some have been taught, don't do that. Don't just interrupt somewhere. Yeah, I understand.
I was one of those people that was taught that, if I see something that piques my curiosity, I'm more of an analyzer personality anyway. So I'm going to sit back and watch a situation unfold first to try and get the lay of the land before I make the decision on whether or not somebody's approachable or not. Right. But some people can't help themselves.
I can't help myself. Yeah. You may not be approachable, but I'm approaching. Yeah, I hear you. But you're right. That's exactly right. The people are different. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been more of an introvert, believe it or not. Also anyway. And so For me, I really have to kind of analyze the situation first to really feel comfortable in like making a next step and being like, okay, well, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze on this, or is this a situation where I'm just going to come out even more confused than I was?
I hear you. Yeah,
I was before. But
I'm still hoping that maybe granddaughter, who knows? But yeah, you said your wife doesn't care about birds. Okay.
Nope.
My first bird. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We named it. Well, she named it lovingly TDB, which stands for that damn bird. That's what. It's a little kestrel, the cutest thing you ever saw in your life. But she did not like that bird, and let it be known from day one. Mm-hmm. Now, she puts up with me because she loves me, I guess, but she doesn't understand me. She'll think, why are you in I don't see the fascination. She doesn't get it. Mm-hmm. Does not at all. But that's the way it is.
Well, and you don't unless you, I don't know, if you can spend a day in the field and watch the birds watch these raptors do what they do every day in the wild and get to see an up close, in person, spectator, front row seat view to all of this stuff, and then you can literally walk out of the field and be like, then okay, then I think you have you've earned the right then to then have that attitude. But so that's what cracks me up is, still to this day, I've been actually practicing falconry myself since 2015. So not a super long time myself, but has my wife ever been out in the field with me to do any hunting or any? Nope, not one time, So it's not because of lack of invitation,
Yeah.
And my son, he's been out with me only maybe like 3 times or so.
Right.
And I've actually watched the transformation in him a little bit to where it gets my hopes up just enough, but not to the point where I think he's going to stick with it, but he at least gets it. He's seen it himself. But I don't understand how you can at least you have to at least see it in person once. If you are underwhelmed after that, then okay, fine. You've at least earned the right to be able to be underwhelmed. But I'm like you. It's hard for me to really relate to someone that makes the judgment, beforehand. And
well, long story short, the very first duck I ever caught on my own, I'd been with my sponsor the other times and so this was like duck number 3, maybe. Okay. My first bird, I'm just getting started. Okay. This is duck number 3, and I've got a dog, and the dog is helping me work. It's a retrieving dog. Anyway, long story short, the only reason my wife was with me is because we were going on a shopping trip for her. And I said, I want to bring my bird because we're going to buy some ponds that are my ponds, and there'll be ducks on it. And it won't take but just a few minutes. You can sit in the car and watch, and and I'm going to go. She said, yeah, okay, well, but she didn't like the bird in the car, but we took it, okay? And sure enough, on the way home from the shopping trip, she's in the truck. She's got full view of what's going on. In fact, I lost track of my bird. He was great height, good pitch, but I was in some trees and I couldn't find him. And I looked at her and kind of shrugged my shoulders like she points. He's right above you, She can see him. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you got to get this whole story. I run up and my dog runs with me. We flush the ducks. The bird smacks the duck. The duck hits the ground like a ton of bricks. The bird makes a U-turn and comes back at him, and the duck gets up and starts toward the pond. My dog caught him in the air. Okay? So I've got a bird now that flushed. That caught a duck that we flushed, and a dog that caught the duck before it got to the pond. I was crazy excited. I said, I got a team here. I've got a bird that's catching ducks, and I got a dog. And she just, yeah. I said, did you see that? She said, yeah. I'm thinking that's crazy. That's just amazing to me, but to her, it's no big deal. Yeah. So you just said it. And why she's that way? She just is. Now, my wife is girly. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. She's girly. She's a town girl. Knows nothing about animals. In fact, this is when we were dating. I shouldn't tell off on her on this, but this is fun. This is fun. And I've told this story many times. We're driving through the pasture. I live in the country. And we were looking at some cattle, and I said, man, it's a beautiful bull right there. And I knew the bull, neighbor's bull, beautiful bull. I said, that's a beautiful bull. And she looked out there and she said, there are no bulls out there. I said, well, yeah, there's a bull right there. She said, how do you know that's a bull? I said, well, he said, he's a bull. She said, bulls are black and have horns. And when I got to talking to her, I found out that to her, there were cows and there were bulls. Mm-hmm. And cows were one animal, bulls are different animals, and there's girl bulls and there's boy bulls. Girls and boys, and there's girl cows and boy cows, but they're different animals. And bulls, male or female, are black and have horns. You know where she got that? From seeing a bull that was a bullfighting bull mm-hmm. on a Mexican food restaurant sign, and she always thought that's a different animal than what she's seen in the pastures. Anyway, that's my wife. I mean, she just grew up very sheltered in terms of animals and that kind of stuff. She had no idea. So for her, yeah, she married the wrong guy. Because I'm crazy about all of that. The outdoor stuff, I love it. I love animals. I love the farm life, the ranch life, cattle life. I love it. And I've been a town boy ever since I married my wife. But I keep my bird. I get to keep my bird.
Yeah, I mean, my wife's the same way. She tolerates it. I will say that there have been at least a couple of birds. Ironically enough, one of them was a kestrel that she really liked. The other was an imprint prairie, male prairie, that she liked that I had there for a bit before he ended up dying of an infection. And there have been at least two birds that I can remember off the top of my head that she actually did like because they had personality, right? Yeah. Of course, the imprint prairie, anytime she would approach, he would get, animated and, do the whole imprint thing, right? Kind of the vocalization and, a little bit of the animation, whatever, blah, blah. And I think she liked how she could interact with him to a certain degree. Most of the other birds, though, could care less. I mean, there's been some that's just been like, yeah, it's, why is this ugly thing here? Whatever. And and like I said, I don't know. To each their own, and that's what makes the world go round, is everybody's differences and stuff. But yeah, it's always interesting seeing people's reactions and being able to see certain people's reactions also is part of the other reason why this continues to be fun, I think, at least for me. Right. I mean, do you still enjoy seeing people's reactions in the field that they haven't ever seen it but are seeing it for the first time and stuff? Do you still enjoy that also?
Oh, yeah. And to see that magic, it reminds me of my first time to see it. And you've done this, and anybody that's been in falconry for very long, doing a presentation at a school or, some kind of a Boy Scout event, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You'll have those kids that just kind of pass along because it's part of the program today. We're looking at birds, okay? Sure. And then there are others, they can't leave. Yeah. They want to hang out. They want to stay right there and talk and touch and hold and let me go fly with you. And you see it and you think, this kid's got it. He's going to be one of these days. He's going to have to do it. Because I relate to that kid. I understand that. And for me, I mean, animals, I don't know, the benefit they've been to me in terms of having something to catch my attention and keep it that was not causing trouble or mischievous or, it's been good for me for not just the falcons, but before that, racing homers and rolling pigeons and training dogs and riding horses and animals. Oh my goodness, they've captivated me since day one.
Yeah. Well, what types of dogs have you mainly run? Like pointers or?
No. The reason I've always wanted a pointing dog, but East Texas, there's no quail. That's too high dollar for me to have to travel to do it, and so I just never did. I worked with one for a little bit, but it was a friend of mine that had that dog, and back when I was a kid. But anyway, long story short, I focused on beagles for a while. I had a Jack Russell Terrier and fox terrier for squirrels, mm-hmm. But anyway, ended up with poodles, if you can imagine, but because my wife, again, she does not like dogs of any kind. Well, I kept trying to get her to let me have a dog in the house. I wanted one in the house, and no way. So the dogs were always outside and, just a bother to her. But when my daughter came along, she kind of wanted a dog, and she's more of an animal lover. And so we both ganged up on her and finally talked her into getting a toy poodle.
Uh-huh.
And my wife literally shopped and went, picked it out, and bought it herself. Well, with that toy poodle, we won the day because she fell in love with that little toy poodle. She fell in love. Well, I knew where I was going. Standard poodles were hunting dogs back in the day. Mm-hmm. And when I realized that she had accepted that toy poodle, I introduced her to a standard. And my wife will tell you to this day, she still does not like dogs. But she loves standard poodles, and they're not dogs. They're people with fur. But mine have been trained to be water retrievers, duck retrievers, to quarter in front of me so I can hunt quail if I ever go, and I never do. I've just, put out quail, put them out in the pasture, put out 10 or 12, leave them an hour or so and go and hunt them up. That's all I've ever done with them. But great water retrievers. And right now, I happen to have a golden doodle, and that's a long story, but she may be the best dog I've ever had. She's really very trained so easy. She has good prey drive, but she's one of those that it's like the difference between a lab who says, I have got to get that duck. Please let me go get that. I'm going crazy. I got to go get that duck. That poodle will say, you want me to get that duck? Because I can, and I will if you want me to. But if you don't want me to, I don't have to. We can go lay on the couch if you want to. What do you want to do? Mm-hmm. They're a different animal, but they train very well, and they can they can do a good job when it's in the field. They really can. A good, well-bred standard poodle, good hunting dog. Yeah. I've hunted rabbits with them and squirrels with them, and yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've not talked to really many people yet that have ran poodles. Especially, squirrel hawkers and stuff. The majority of what you talk to or run into is, your Decker terriers, your dachshunds and things like that, different types of terriers. But
no, you would never get a poodle for a squirrel dog with a hawk. Unless you're trying to have a dog that you want that won't shed and your wife loves. Yeah. Right. Because they can't get through the brambles and the brush. They get hung up. Yeah. It's Velcro.
Yeah.
It's Velcro.
Yeah. No,
Velcro.
I'm remembering now that you mainly had it for the water retrieval and stuff. Yeah. And as far as that goes, well, I mean, and for that matter, though, I mean, I've still not really talked to many people yet that have had them for that either. Yeah. Pretty much it's mainly, labs or like retrievers or other types of, dogs.
But the one dog that I told you about that caught the duck, that was a poodle. Huh. And I've had, since that time, I had a few of those catches that without the dog, we would have never caught the duck. The dog was saved the day. I've had a few of those because they do learn what the program is, and you can get one. And I had one that I could make him sit on one end of the dam. I'm on the other end of the dam, and when I say flush, he comes over, I come over, and then when I blow the whistle, he'll stop and sit down. They're helpful for flushing. And if you go in the history of poodles online, look for the history of poodles, and it'll take you back to falconry, where they used poodles to flush ducks in marshy areas that you could not run fast enough to get to the duck to make him flush, but the poodle could, and he'd make him get up, and you catch that duck with a poodle. And they got a long history with falcons. Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever I was doing my initial research into dogs and falconry, of course, that's how I ended up with my first couple of Vizslas.
I love Vizslas. I want one.
Yeah, they're good dogs. And
I want one.
Yeah, but I mean, had I to do it all over again, I would have just started off with the dachshunds. But either way, I mean, traditionally speaking, when you're doing your research, in the background of all that, you end up with like Vizslas and some of the other breeds, but I've not ever ran into the poodle thing. So that's really interesting.
Well, it's so funny that you say this. My wife does not like dogs. She loves poodles. They're not dogs. And of all the dogs that she hates most, the dachshund. She does not like dachshunds. Why? I don't know. She does not like dachshunds.
Oh, that's hilarious.
In fact, she asked me about you and the podcast. I said, well, he's doing a podcast about dachshunds. She said, dachshunds? What's he got to do with dachshunds? And she said, you don't need to go see that guy. I know he's no good. There's no way he got a dachshund. But then I reminded her what great dogs are for falcons. And I'd say falcons for hawk, rabbit and squirrel, and they're primo dogs. Then,
yeah. I mean, it's funny. Yeah, everybody has all these preconceived notions, and I mean, to be honest, my wife was never a big fan of small breed dogs either, and then we got these dachshunds.
She likes them.
Oh, there's a part of me every time that I take my dachshunds out hunting that I'm scared a little bit. Because if I ever came back without a dachshund,
one that got snake bit,
or any of that kind of stuff, if something happened, then bad things would probably happen in that scenario, especially if it was technically her dachshund, which I run both of our dachshunds. One is technically hers, the other one is technically mine.
Yeah. But
especially if it was hers that ended up getting hurt or something.
And I know what you're saying. It works against you. The dogs, what I've done time and time again, I will walk a dog into the house and I say, this is my dog. That means I can do whatever I want to with this dog. I can take it where I can get rid of it today, tomorrow, anytime. Well, that doesn't work because she falls in love with them, and I better be taking care of that dog. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
She makes sure that I'm taking care of that dog.
Yeah.
She wants to baby it and give it all the cushy stuff, and but she loves these poodles. She loves them, and now the golden doodle, she loves it. Yeah. Loves her. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife has come around a lot with some of this stuff for sure, and she actually has come out. That's kind of I've really hoped that this would be kind of a backdoor way for her to at least have a little bit better appreciation for the whole, the whole package deal. But she actually has come out with me one or two times to run the dachshunds.
Yeah,
and I've shown her how excited they get.
They love it.
Yeah,
they love it.
I've shown her how excited they get and just how much they love and live for that aspect of things. And that's without that, I mean, they're not a complete dog. At least the ones that come from hunting lines and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think she understands that a little bit better.
Yeah.
I keep telling her that I'm going to have her come to a field trial with me sometime too, because she's ultra, like my wife's an ultra competitive personality too. And I told her that might be something that, she might turn into, like this, that might end up being like a new hobby for her, like doing these field trials with these wiener dogs and stuff, and she's just like, oh, I don't know if that's a good idea.
But I think she might have fun. But I tell you, and that may be a different aspect of life and animals and people. And because with falconry, at least this is my perspective, I don't see them as a pet in the sense that this is something I'm loving on and,
not
snuggling up to. But see, that dog, man's best friend, it's that pet kind of thinking that I tell people, and they look at me like I'm heartless, like I'm, but my attitude is I've got a good dog right now. This golden doodle, she's trained well, boom, boom. But if you walked in with a dog that I thought was better, that would be a better hunter retriever than she and work better in my home, I'd trade you in a minute. And my wife will say, oh no, you won't. You see what I'm saying? But
for sure.
To me, it's almost, and I'm going to take care of my animals. I want them to be healthy and happy, so to speak, that be what they're supposed to be. I want to give them good experience, but I don't see them as like a kid or they're not a snuggle pet. That's not what I want them to work. I want them to do what they're supposed to do. And when I see one that's doing that, I'll take him. You can have mine.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. That may be part of our problem.
Maybe. I mean, It's kind of a 50-50 thing with me. Like, ultimately, you are getting a dog like that as a utility to some degree. You're getting it because you're wanting it to perform a task or a job for you. And if it doesn't do that, then that takes a lot of that whole experience with that animal away. That's why I'm to the point now where I can't justify having a dog just to have a dog.
That's the way I am.
I can't do it either.
I can't.
But that's why I've chosen the dogs that I have, though, is because I know that they're a good mix of family and utility.
Right.
And I know that it's not just me, of course. I mean, if I was single, living alone, and didn't care, then yeah, if I got a dog to perform a task for me and it didn't do it, then it would be easier for me just to go ahead and pass it off to somebody to be a pure house pet or whatever. But, you know, it's kind of like, you know, what you know, some mutual friends like, you know, Teddy and some of these other falconer friends say. It's just like, don't marry your dog. Well, it's easy for us to not marry our dog, but it's not easy for those of us who are married to us to not marry the dog.
Yeah, the wife and the kids, they fall in love with the pet.
Exactly.
And so it's a problem. Yeah, I don't know. I've gotten in trouble several times. But I love dogs, and I love seeing a kid that loves a dog, and I've given away a lot of dogs through the years. And I've always enjoyed that because I was there. When I was a kid, I wanted a good dog, and to have one. Anyway. Yeah, it's one of those never-ending conundrums, but anyway, yeah. So real quick though, before we start to wrap this up, is there any other particular story or any other particular experience that you've had in the field with any of your other birds or anything that comes to mind that is one of your favorites that you'd like to share? Or, I mean, you've already shared a couple, but I mean, what's another one that comes to mind as being one of the ones that comes to the forefront as like, you know, that a really good experience for you? You know, it depends on your experience. What's extraordinary and, you know, the thing that captured your
I mean, it could be anything too. It could be a good learning experience. It could be
right.
You know, whatever.
In terms of learning experience, I am more and more fascinated with the idea of operant conditioning, and I've done it a lot with my dogs. But learning how that works for a bird that's different in the way they think, and being able with operant conditioning to fly a bird in real high condition. The last redtail that I flew in high condition, she did things that I didn't know one could do. And I'd been around, I've seen a lot of redtails fly, but I never saw a bird do what she did and the way she did it. And so I'm convinced that they can do more than we think they can. And it's about how can you get them in top flight condition so that they can really perform. And, you know, for us guys to have a bird in top condition is hard to do. They're sitting around doing nothing too long, too much. So I'm real big on it. I like to find a bird's weight that will let me kind of hang out with them and turn them loose and hope for the best and let them do what they do naturally as much as possible. I'm fascinated with that. And even with longwings, I got to see some incredible flights and such that I'm thinking that's as good as a wild bird in the way they fly, just sky high and hitting hard and chasing and passing up. But, you know, you think, well, why did he pass on? I don't know. But it's not that she couldn't catch it, you know, just decided not to. I don't know, but to see them fly in high condition. So operant conditioning, if you never looked into it, recommend it and get to others who know what they're doing. That's what I'm doing, trying to figure it out and understand it. But reading that bird and helping that bird be everything it can be by making sure it's in high condition, lots of exercise. And that maybe because I'm getting old and can't run through the woods as well, I've got to figure out a way to do that. And without, So that's just the thing that where I am right now. But in terms of different experiences that I've had, nothing like a good squirrel chase. That one bird I told you, the last one I flew in real high condition, I would turn her loose, and I was always chasing her. I wouldn't call her back. I'd just let her go and follow her. And sometimes I'd go 2 miles before I found her, and there'd be a squirrel. Either she'd already caught it or she's waiting on me to move it, but there's a squirrel there. That's the reason she's there. But one day she went to the top of a tree, and it was so tall I could just hear the bells. And anyway, I heard a smack, and here she came down with the squirrel, and she's hitting limbs, and boom. Anyway, on the way down, she loses the squirrel. It hits the ground right ahead of her. And as soon as it hits the ground, it takes off, and there's a log right there close by that he's over, the log, and then back up the tree. Well, a red-tail's supposed to sit and think about that. She's just come down from the very top of that tall, tall pine tree, banging through limbs. She didn't hesitate. As soon as he hit the tree, she took one pitch. She took another pitch. And the third one, she was on that squirrel. She went to the top of it and just, one flight, second flight, third one, she's there. And she brought him out of there. I could not believe she got back into the chase that fast. I could not believe she was able to get up there that fast, that high, that fast. But she could. She was strong as a bull. And I want to see that again. I want to see if I can duplicate her, see she was just an exceptional athlete. I don't know. But I know I flew her in higher condition than any bird I'd ever flown.
Squirrel birds, you kind of have to. And in order for them to get that level of fitness and muscle, and especially if you're hunting them almost every day, it's really hard to find a bird that's as well-oiled of a machine as a good fit squirrel hawking bird.
I'm telling you, the amount,
it's nuts.
And part of it has been GPS, where in my first bird, my first purpose and plan is to don't lose the bird. Okay, if she catches a squirrel, great, but don't lose the bird. Well, with GPS, I forgot I don't worry about losing the bird. I want to see that bird do what that bird can do. And I know where she is. She flies 2 miles. I know right where she is. Now, what I don't know is what else is over there. It could be a pit bulldog got her on the ground. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know where she is. And that GPS has changed my whole life in terms of my perspective in flying a fit bird. And there's that word of caution, because I even called the marshal Telemetry because I saw the advertisement said, just let them fly. The advertising, just let them fly. Let them reach their full potential. And so when I got GPS, that's what I did. I had a little tearful that I let him fly. And for him to hit 500 to 750 feet off the fist and a heartbeat was common. I knew where he was. And he'd fly off, but I knew where he was. I'd just go get him. Until one day, I found him under a red tail. There were some black feathers. I'm thinking he caught a crow is what I think. And then the red tail caught him. Dead as a hammer. So I told Marshall, I said, well, you do know right where they are. That's part of the advertising. Let them fly because you always know where they are. But the problem is you don't know what else is where they are.
Yeah.
There's your problem.
Yeah. And it helps you get to them quicker so that you can hopefully avoid whatever environmental disaster. But it doesn't always work that way, unfortunately. But I agree. I'm a big believer in using that and stuff too. And there's a lot of people that think it's, overkill for certain species, like red tails, Harrises and stuff. But tell you what, I mean, if you got it, it's a tool at your disposal already. You might as well use it, because there's been some times where I've flown on some windy days or whatever, and next thing you know, the bird starts to kind of catch a little bit of a breeze, and then off they go into towards the next county or whatever, and it's like, well, all right, well. And we're a little heavy for today's conditions, and
right.
And what would normally be a 2 hour beep chase would be turns into a 10-minute retrieve, and when you've got something like the GPS and everything. So for me, it's a tool that I've come to really love also. But But yeah, no, I mean, it's really hard to beat the fitness of a good squirrel hawk. I've come to really appreciate that too. And, it's just amazing seeing how different of a flying bird you have from the beginning of the season to the end too. It's amazing. But, well, I mean, I think that's a good note to end on though. But before we end, I want to get your piece of advice that you'd like to leave people, and then we can, we can call this good.
Fly. Just get into it and fly. It helps to have a good sponsor, of course, a good group around you to bounce ideas off of, that sort of thing. But I don't have any great words of wisdom. The biggest part was what I just said with operant conditioning. I think that changes things. And GPS, if you can have it, makes a huge difference. For me, it does. And just go and have fun. Enjoy those birds. Falconry is not everything. Got to take care of your family. It's not all of life, but it is fascinating. And it's the kind of thing that, I hope we get to do for the rest of my life at least. And I'd hope to other generations to follow will enjoy what I've enjoyed. There are people out there like us, like me. It's an incredible ride. So just fly.
Perfect. Yeah, sometimes it's scary to think about what it might be like one day not being able to do this anymore. I try not to think about it, but those are some good words to end on. And like I said, Robert, I appreciate you taking the time to do this today and hang out. And I mean it's one of the things that makes things like this fun for me and continues to be fun is getting to meet guys like yourself that I've never met before, but I can sit down in a room and talk to for an hour and shoot the breeze and get to know. And it's always a good time. So I appreciate you contributing to that.
It's been my honor. I appreciate you inviting me. I hope it matters to somebody. I hope it might encourage somebody. I don't know. Hope so.
I'm sure it will, but let's go and hang out and enjoy the rest of the day, man.
Thank you, sir.